Something to be grateful for. And thank you for joining the Word Traction podcast, where we generally drill down on one particular issue. And when I say we, that's sort of the royal we, and how appropriate in the age of our Lord and Savior and sovereign Donald J. Trump that I use the royal we. But yeah, Word Traction, thanks for coming. And Rob Bonta, who is the Attorney General for the great state of California. As we all know, California by itself has the fourth largest economy in the world. And Rob's a brilliant uh, litigator, attorney general, and marvelously accomplished attorney. And he also does not seem to suffer fools gladly. And at this particular time of when we are overrun with fools in Washington, Rob has since the beginning of Trump 2.0 has sued the Trump administration over 50 times, 50, in just a little over a year. So that is, old school math. That's more than once a week. I'm rounding it up or down or even or sideways, but that's fantastic. And keeping them honest, which is kind of a joke in the Trump administration. We need a lot more people keeping them honest, but there are, my right here in the not quite balmy Commonwealth of Massachusetts, um, you know, uh, Governor Maura Healey is firing back um, as frequently as she possibly can. So, Rob Bonta, what he announced today, it's been a busy week and a busy Friday, as I was out of the office and home for the better part of the day, and reading through the feeds and deciding what I wanted to torture and harp on today. There's just so much, and I've had 1.5 pods on the Anthropic um, drama, melodrama. And it seems that the Netflix chief, Ted Sarandos, was at the White House yesterday, didn't meet directly with Trump, at least according to the official account. But then he decided to tap out, right? And said that it didn't make business sense any longer for Netflix to pursue the Time Warner, the excuse me, yeah, the Warner Brothers studio deal, and that leaves Trump's homeboys, the Ellison, the elder and the younger, to do their, Larry and David, to do their best or their worst. But much as we have been relying on the inferior court judges, the federal district court judges, to stand up against the Trump administration when the Supreme Court seems unwilling to do so. I know about the tariffs ruling, but as I covered in the podcast on that subject, that was a setup. That was a shell game. It was a lot of things. We could turn it into a red herring. It was actually more like a gambit in chess, where you sacrifice a pawn, perhaps for a more important position, right? So that was what happened with the Supreme Court. They knew that case was coming. They knew how they were going to rule. They knew what the votes looked like. going into it, and they knew they could. And they told Donald J. Trump that they were going to rule against him, and he did his part by insulting them not once but twice or three times, and that's all part of the game. So that later on in this term, hopefully it's not a long one, they'll be able to do some much more horrible and consequential things with voting rights and in other, I would argue, more important uh, issues because the president has other avenues to get to tariffs if he cares to. Some which will be, rejected by the courts, but others that will be embraced because they don't want to say no to him. They'll say no to him once, but they don't want to do it repeatedly because they are like a theocracy. They are aligned with him in his view of presidential power. And if there was ever any doubt, then John Roberts, you know, went took his pants down and had a nap. And Trump beat the U.S. So that is not unlimited presidential power and not unlimited immunity, but pretty damn close and unlimited enough that Donald Trump will take the ball and run it for the last 2 or 3 yards or pay somebody to do it. And we'll have some truly horrible decisions before too long by the Supreme Court. But for today's purposes, Rob Bonta, much as I said, like we rely on the district court, the federal district court judges to stand up, and they've been doing a wonderful job. We're going to rely ever more on the individual states and commonwealths in the sense of Massachusetts and others. We're going to rely on them to stand up for us because we know Pamela Joe Bondi ain't going to do shit. That is nothing contrary to the grievances, hopes, wishes, and dreams of Donald J. Trump. That's what she's there. She's there to, kiss his ass, keep him happy, and give him everything he wants, which is not the role of the attorney general, but that's what we're dealing with now. So Rob Bonta will be, standing up in in the stead of a national attorney general in a way, because California's economy is big enough to be viewed as a nation in its own right. And he will say no. He won't win every time, but obviously, like we just talked about, he's sued them once a week since they've been back in power, and he ain't stopping, right? And so, what can he do? So he knows that Donald Trump will do whatever he can to get the deal over the finish line for the Ellisons, because now CNN is part of that deal, and Donald Trump would like nothing more than to jump up and down on CNN until it dies, you know, because going into the midterms and more importantly into the general elections in 2028, you think about the power that is consolidated in Trump's orbit, you know, this this deal goes through or it doesn't, but they'll be able to scuttle CNN one way or another because even Netflix didn't want it. That was a different deal with Netflix. They were taking the movie studio, right, and distribution and some other things, but they were not interested in the legacy news function of that, and I think they didn't have any interest in Discovery either, except maybe for the a piece of the IP. So what does that mean between now and say the midterm elections? Right? all of the authority and the power that rests in Trump's control, if you look at the Ellison part, which is uh, which is TikTok, right? Which is CBS News under Barry Weiss. It is X because until otherwise directed, Elon is still Trump's boy, at least more Trump's boy than anybody else's. And all the other sycophants and, Jazzy Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and all of those other folks too, who are still, staying in line behind Donald Trump for some, for financial reasons. But, can they, how long will they be able to kiss their kids goodnight? When the questions continue to come up, like, Dad, did you see that they shot the 10 times? What is that? That's Donald Trump. You were at his inauguration, Dad. His administration just put 10 bullets in that guy and 3 bullets in the poet 10 days before. Dad, why you went to his inauguration? Is he your friend? I know he's a president, but he's mean, he's rude, he's losing it. What, Dad? Why do you do that? That kind of. I'm over dramatizing it a little bit, but think about teach your children well. What kind of example? I mean, Trump lost cause. He himself, right? His kids are grown. His grandkids are, they each have $1 billion in the bank, or some large number from all of the shenanigans that the Don Jr. and Eric and all of the Jared Kushner have done with CZ and other and the Middle East potentates. They've set their generations of their family going forward until the end of time, which may be coming sooner than you thought. They're going to be very comfortable financially, right? But for the midterm elections, sure, the Democrats are set up pretty well to perform. I mean, you see the polls. Polls are becoming, I think, a little bit less reliable. But hey, it should be a good midterm for the House. The Senate's up in the air, doing well in the individual states. Right? But the Rob Bontas of the world can do a lot to help us because Rob can sue to block the transaction. He can hold hearings. He can, because that's in his jurisdiction, his bailiwick, if you will, is Hollywood. Hollywood be benefited by this sort of the Ellisons make all these noises about, oh no, we go to the movies all the time. Can you imagine Larry Ellison just hanging out at the the Sac Cinema Metroplex down the street in Revere, Massachusetts? I don't think so. We love the movie business. What they love is making money. And as soon as they can switch over to 100% AGI, synthetic cotton candy movies that they can make without paying actors or facing unions, they're going to do it because they're those kind of guys. Those are the kind of guys that the Ellisons are, right? Marvelously wealthy. Congratulations. Build really fast sailboats or have them built. But good for Hollywood? No, no. So Rob Bonta, he's concerned about what's good for Hollywood because those are his constituents. Hollywood is part of his team. So Rob will make them jump through hoops make them answer questions, open investigations, and bring out perhaps some of the uncomfortable truths about the relationship between Donald J. Trump and the Ellisons, which could help us even further afield of the specific transaction, because what he can do by, clever lawyering, he can open up areas of inquiry that might give greater visibility into TikTok, because TikTok, as with IG, is a platform where such IP is stolen from creators. And if he can make a reasonable argument that the Ellisons' involvement in the Warner deal, buying Warner, with or without CNN, with or without Discovery and the other parts, if he can argue that it's bad for jobs in California and bad for creators, and say, no, no, we object, it's good for creators, then maybe that opens a line of inquiry that will allow Bonta and his team to shine a very bright light on exactly how damaging it will be for Hollywood, but also if it's well timed, perhaps. I mean, it's already it's hours from March. Could he time it in such a way, because Trump will be in a hurry to close the deal for his homeboys, the Ellisons, who give him an ungodly amount of money? Can Bonta play it so it this inquiry uh, uh, matures or blooms at a time when he can weaponize that public information dump ahead of the midterm elections? That would be great, you know? Say, oh, yeah, your president, as if you didn't hear, is a lot of people own his ass. There's a lot of ass to go around. And one of the people who own his ass, besides the Chinese Communist Party and Vladimir Putin, are Larry Ellison and his son. What do I mean by own his ass? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please allow your eyes to go to the helpful PowerPoint presentation going on over my shoulder. You yeah. So it would be a very useful tool. Whether the timing will work out right, but Rob Bonta is an extraordinarily clever gentleman, and he has no time at all for Bondi or Trump. You know, antipathy would be a polite way of putting how he feels about them. And as his boss, Gavin Newsom, oh yeah, yeah. Well, he has other aspirations too, and they all line up with taking the legs out of uh, Trump and the Trump administration, and I mean that in a nonviolent sense, of course. But nothing would make Gavin Newsom happier than for Gavin and Rob to be Batman and Robin, or Robin and Batman, and absolutely, you know, scuttle this deal that'll make his the Ellisons sad, to make DJT sad, to make Pamela Joe Bondi put on that face where she gets, mad, indignant look, Dow 50,000, which is 48 and change today, I think. Yeah, so it could be delightful to watch. And so I'm tonight, this evening, this Friday, I am pouring one out. Unfortunately, it's water only, for Mr. Rob Bonta, the state of California's attorney general, and someone that will make us proud because he always does, and he's going to keep firing at the Trump administration whenever they are Bondi and Trump are habitual line steppers. And Rob Rob is the kind of guy that wants to step on their toes and put them back in place in in a sense, in a nonviolent way. So yeah. So wishing you all a beautiful evening. Thank you for your time. Kindly do the restack thing, and we'll catch you sometime over the weekend. Thank you so much.